Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Dolls of Horror podcast. Today, I have with me another very special guest. I just dropped just now Wesley Mann's interview.
Oh,
And
cool.
now we got his co star from Adventures in Wonderland, Richard Kuhlman. Welcome.
Hi, thank you very much. Thanks,
Did I
Summer.
say your last name right?
Yes, like Coolman.
Yes.
Yes,
Perfect.
perfect.
Well, we've been chatting a little bit on the line over the last couple of weeks. And when I invited you on the podcast, you said, this is a quote, I wrote it down because it was funny.
Oh, sure.
And we'll talk about Adventures in Wonderland and horror and the Cheshire Cat and spooky shit, right? And
Yes.
so here we are.
Okay, good.
We're going to talk about all those things and more. First, I want to talk about you, your beginning, Richard Coleman's upbringing in the arts. How did this start for you? Your origin story.
Oh my God. Well, I'm from Ohio, which is a good place to be from because you can't wait to get out of there. And so, because people just were like, I had uncles that would say like, "You want to be what? What are you going to do in what? California, Hollywood, what? You know, actor? What do you got to say lines and things like that? And get a job." So I could get away from that as quickly as I could, and I moved to Chicago, and that's where everybody understood me. And then I moved to LA
Mhm.
and worked as an actor for 30 years. One of the jobs was Adventures in Wonderland, which
Yeah.
moved me to Florida for a year because we shot at the Disney studio in Orlando, and we shot 100 episodes. Well, about 60 of them we shot in Orlando. Then the rest of them we shot back in North Hollywood at the I can't remember the name of the studio right now, but it's the one that's just right there in North Hollywood, and it's very famous. And so we shot there, and it was a great time. It was lovely. There was nothing wrong with doing Adventures in Wonderland. It was a lot of time off, a lot of great fun time doing it, and geez, I don't know. It was like, it was really good audition. The Cheshire Cat was a puppet, and he was big. He was about the size of a Volkswagen, maybe. No,
Really?
not that big. No, about the seat of a Volkswagen.
Okay.
And
Okay.
yeah,
So
and
big
he
dog.
was big. Yes, there was like 14 of us that made it work. It was the Kyoto brothers who were puppeteers, experts,
Yeah.
and they worked on what is that one? That's the the movie that is Team America. Yeah, and they have that song
For
"Fuck
us,
Yeah,
it's
Team."
Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Oh yeah, Killer Clowns, of course. That's true too. Jiminy Christmas, I can't forget that. And so those guys are great, and I auditioned for them, and I was doing the voice and working the mechanism of the mouth on the cat, and it wasn't coordinating. It was kind of sticking, and this is the final callback, and the room is filled with Disney studio execs and Kyoto
Mhm.
brothers and the producers and all this stuff, and I got done, and I know it's just not good, and they go, "Thank you, Richard. That was nice. Thank you." And I was like, I kind of stood up, and then I sat back down. And I said, "I'm going to do this again." And they were all like, "No one does that to Disney." And I compensated for the stickiness of the levers. And it was like a servo kind of thing that made his mouth go like this.
Mhm.
And I had to be able to speak the same way So it was cool. And I did it much better. And so then when they cast me, then one of the Kyoto brothers came up to me afterwards. He said, "Boy, you really saved your ass when you did that because nobody had ever said, 'I'm going to do this again.' And then you did it again." And so then we moved to Orlando, and we had the first read through, and the voice that I was doing was similar, but it had a British accent. And the guy playing the White Rabbit, Patrick Richwood, he's worked a whole lot, and he was doing an accent as well. And they pulled me aside at the end of the first read through, and they said, "Richard, you got to change the voice. You have a British accent, and Patrick has one too, and we forgot that. And so can you do it? So then I went and practiced a bunch of voices and came back, and I was like, how does this one if I just go, hello, Alice, how the hell are you? And they were like, oh, that's great. Okay. So then I saved my ass twice, And, you know, so it was fun. It was really fun.
How long did it take you to come on to that final voice?
It was, well, that final voice probably took me like 5 minutes because I had to
Yeah.
really rush. I
Yeah.
was like going, well, they don't want a British accent. They want
Uh-huh.
something. And I kept looking at the cat and wondering how he looked
Uh-huh.
and how he would sound. And I do this thing with the back of my throat where I go, and people go, how do you do that? And I go, I don't know. It just comes out of me. So I incorporated that and a little bit of a laughter. And so it all worked out, and everybody, everybody was happy. You got to kind of make producers happy,
Yeah.
because they kind of like, I suddenly didn't want to get sent home. So that was it. It was a lot of fun, and everybody was. I mean, it was all really great. I think Wesley and I were the only two straight guys. Everybody else was
I was
gay.
thinking about that the other day, actually.
I think about it every day. No, I don't.
I
I
was looking at the cast. First of all, I was looking at, the fact there's only 2 females in the cast.
Yeah,
Um, and then I know some about some people. I have mutual friends with some of these people, not just
yeah,
you and Wes, but like other friends. Like Patrick, at least on Facebook, is mutual Facebook friends with people I worked with in theater,
yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And and I'm like, gay, 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 gay. Not by looks, just by like I know, now in 2025, you're allowed to be out about that sort of thing, right?
Yes, yeah,
And
it definitely. It was kind of closeted back then.
right,
Some of it was.
right.
But two of the characters had a long-standing relationship between each other. That was it was kind of fun, and it was just all romantic and sweet, and I was getting laid too, so it was good. I dated the makeup girl for a long time. She was really a sweet Floridian. She kept calling me baby and had a
Aw.
southern accent, and it's just like, oh, what are you gonna go do to baby? Hey, baby, what are you gonna do? I was
Aw.
like, Jesus, take me anywhere. This is great. So yeah. Anyway, but everybody's moved on really well.
Mhm.
Wes keeps working. Wesley Mann keeps working, and John Hoffman, who was the Mad Hatter,
Yep,
he now is an executive producer on uh, Only Murders in the Building,
that's correct, yeah.
and and uh, 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 uh,
What's Reese doing nowadays? Is he still on stage or is he retired
he
or
lives in he lives in Tennessee with his husband, and I think he's kind of reclusive a little bit.
Mm,
I can find him on Facebook every once in a while, but mainly I communicate to him through his husband, who's a
really?
swell guy. Yeah, and he's a singer, a local singer in Tennessee. I guess Nashville or Knoxville or one of those villas, you know.
Very cool.
So
Yeah, no, I knew
yeah,
I knew who he was. My grandmother loved the musical theater. That's how I knew before Adventures in Wonderland, okay. I was aware of some of you people already, not you. I mean, I guess I did know you, but I didn't know it was you in that cat costume because you're the only one that didn't have your face out there,
yeah.
right?
Well, I was in one episode called I think I was in
I wouldn't
two
even know if I
episodes.
saw it,
Oh,
your
well,
face.
it's called Noses Off,
Okay.
and I play the reporter that is trying to interview the Queen. She has a fake nose
Yeah.
stuck on her nose. Yeah, so
Yeah,
I
but
think I'm.
even
Yeah.
Caterpillar kinda looked like him. You could tell. You could tell who the actor was under there, right?
Yes, you
Um,
can never hide Wes. No,
you
he's.
can't y we had no idea what you looked like under that because it was a puppet, not a costume.
And there were two other Kyoto brothers in that caterpillar, bringing hands and things into there. He had like six hands, I think. So,
Yeah, and
yeah,
crazy, the costumes, the makeup that Disney pulled out for that show and some other shows as well. I've always loved the creepy puppet shows. I never liked cartoons, right?
yes,
Creepy puppet
okay.
shows were my jam. And okay, so this is really interesting. I was interviewing some people from Hellraiser last month or a couple of months ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
And Sean Chapman brought up science, and he brought up a very good point, and he says there's been studies done on why we don't like CGI, right? And it's because our brain knows that we're being tricked, that we know the thing isn't there. And so therefore we all have a natural aversion to it.
Yeah. Okay.
And he's like, and that's why you love Bruce the shark in Jaws, even though it's schlocky and it looks fake, but
That's
we're in
true.
it, right? We're
That's
into
true.
it. And I had the realization on stage in that moment, that's why I don't like cartoons. I needed a physical thing, a puppet, a person. In my kids' shows, I needed something in front of me. I wasn't really a fan of the cartoon.
No, that's good. Well,
Yes.
the Cheshire Cat had somebody up his butt with like the Cheshire Cat is this big thing that would hang by. It was painted blue. He had all these little blue things, and the screen behind him was blue. And they said, "Oh, this isn't going to work. We have to go green screen instead of blue screen. We got to go green screen." So they painted it green, and then they could move the cat. And the guy wore a complete bodysuit with one eye hole. And so every once in a while they'd have to say, "Cut, we can see your eye." Because it would be like the cat, and then there'd be this human eye following the cat around like this. And it was, it would ruin the take. And his only job was to stick his entire arm all the way up to the shoulder into the butt of the Cheshire Cat. And so he could wiggle the Cheshire Cat's body.
Yeah.
And I was in charge of the servo machine that operated his mouth and lips. And then somebody else did his eyebrows. And
That's the
somebody
tail. Who had the
else,
tail?
yes. And then
Was that
somebody
a
was
separate
just
person
doing
on the tail?
a separate tail puppet. Yes. So there was 4 or 5 of us that were making him come to life. Somebody used his hands too. Somebody made he
That's
was
right.
laying, yes. And they had like little sticks that were green that came up, and
Yeah.
he would bring his hands together and go, "Oh," you know.
Okay, so I could tell those were stick hands.
Yes.
I could tell
Yeah.
those were sticks. Okay, but everything else was very fluid. All right. Sorry, guys.
And we did get a song in one of the early episodes. The Cheshire Cat had a song, and it was so hard technically to cover all the angles and have so many shots of the cat. They said the cat is not going to sing anymore. But I got one song in. It was one of the early episodes.
See, now I'm going to have
Um,
to go and rewatch the whole damn season to pick up all these nuggets.
well, we'd shot 100 episodes, and only 99 are available because we had different guest stars.
Yeah.
Do you know the story?
Yes. And in
Oh,
fact, okay, so
yes.
I will let you tell the story, but I just showed Wes this, not on screen because I couldn't find it. But I'm a collector of strange shit, right?
Yes.
I have the novelization, the book that they put out of the lost episode.
Oh my God.
How fun is that? It's an actual, you know,
Oh, that's
they got
great.
pictures from the episode, so I guess it's the closest thing we'll ever have to the episode. And there was another one which I found. I had to really dig for it, but I found this one. Um,
Oh, nice.
and I've had this one for forever, but this one I found White Rabbits Can't Jump in a thrift store out here about 15 years ago.
Oh, geez.
And I paid, how much did I pay for this guy? I paid $3.95 for it, which is
Oh, wow.
awesome. Like they didn't know what they had, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
exactly. Oh,
but
that's
yeah, so
great.
it's very, very cool. Again, collector of strange things. Are you in this? Caterpillar is not in this because I guess telling a story in a story wasn't what they were going for.
Yeah,
So I wonder if you're in this guy. I'm not
I
seeing
don't
you
know.
yet. But
I got eliminated to yes.
anyhow, tell the story on why this isn't a thing.
Well, we had various gifts. We had various guest stars. We had Willie Nelson. We had you know Marley Matlin. We had a lot of fun people. Everybody was really nice, and one of them was O.J. Simpson, and he came on to teach the White Rabbit how to be a good citizen. And then like a few weeks later, he got into some trouble. And the week that he was there, he was really super nice guy. I bought a football and I brought it in. I don't own a football, but then I bought a football and I brought it in. He signed it. It said, "To the cat, peace, OJ." And I still have it to this day. I just don't have it to show you. It's in a trunk somewhere. But yeah, and then he got into some trouble,
Uh-huh.
and that episode apparently it never got completely edited because they stopped anything to do with it. It's in a Disney vault somewhere, I'm sure, or buried in Orlando. I don't know.
That is crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
we talked about that as well. I did the Revenge of the Nerds interview, and one of the things that I like to talk to Don Gibb about is the show he did First and 10, which OJ starred in.
Oh yeah. Oh,
And he's like, yeah, and OJ was in that, so and now he's
he's as popular. Yeah, he's like it's like mentioning Bill Cosby's name every once in a while. It's like, oh yeah,
yeah.
oh,
Yeah, except I
things change.
things do things change. Um, yeah, and
Yeah.
now when now OJ's dead, and now I don't feel bad. I don't feel right
No.
about talking ill of the dead sometimes. Sometimes. So, but everyone I've ever talked to who has had a run-in with OJ
Oh my God, really?
has said he was
Wow.
lovely and nice, even like on the sidewalk. Like we're talking like closer to present day and back then. Everybody said that he was lovely.
Wow.
So what
Well,
happened?
he was really
What
hip,
happened?
and yeah, he was happy to be doing it.
That's
You
so
know.
fun. Well, I got the book, and if I ever do get to meet you one day in person, I'm gonna have you sign it.
Okay, perfect.
Anyway,
Definitely, I
collector of
will.
strange things, man. What do you know?
Yes.
No, Adventures in Wonderland was amazing. I realized early on it was the start of my musical theater love, right?
Oh, yeah.
My and I like I was about to say I already knew who some of you were already. I knew who Armelia was because
Oh, yeah.
my grandma played me Her Ain't Misbehaving and Ghost,
Oh,
right?
cool. Yes. Yes, of
So I
course.
knew who she was. I'm like, "Oh my god, Ghost, great." And I knew Wes, and I was aware of Reese because he was
Yeah.
doing Phantom at the time, and I saw him
Yeah.
on the LA News because we had LA News in Bakersfield.
Oh, cool.
So he was featured on the LA News singing from Phantom of the Opera, right? In
Wow.
1989, 90, whenever that was. So, but it was before this, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I was aware of him. Um, I didn't know the name the Kyoto Brothers, but I now know that there's
yeah.
that connection, right? And so I knew a lot of a lot of these folks that were in the show. And I'll tell you, for the longest time I thought Adventures in Wonderland along with a few other shows I watched was a fever dream because no one remembered the show or three others that I loved, all creepy puppet shows, right?
Yes.
And no one knew these shows. I know now that it's probably because the people I'm talking to are 20 years older than me or
Hmm.
10 years younger than me, so they really missed that demographic. But I
Ah,
thought I was making it all up. I was like, "How come?" And the internet wasn't really a thing. I had no way to look this up. Now I know it's true.
yeah. That's good.
But
Well,
like,
it's still running. It's still on Disney Plus apparently.
yeah, how
Um,
cool is that?
yeah, I know, but they don't, they own the property in perpetuity, and we all thought that we were going to get our contracts renegotiated for the residuals. No, 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 no. They were like, they sent us a couple of coupons to Disney merchandise, and that was about it. And it was like,
Oh,
oh, okay, okay. So Disney's kind of notorious that way.
well, all streamers are really though, aren't they?
Probably,
Isn't that what the
probably.
whole strike was about partially?
Oh, yeah, that's
A couple
true.
years ago,
Yes.
we one,
Think
2
back
when
on
was
it.
that? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Time
Oh, yeah.
time goes by. Yeah, but wasn't that a big part of it, royalties and streaming and stuff,
Nobody
right?
even, yeah, they hadn't conceived of that until then. Everybody was caught with their pants down. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Okay, so I'm sure we'll loop back to Adventures because I just love it so much, and I'm tickled to know that it's not a fever dream, but I don't know. I'm not crazy. Uh, I don't know if you believe in synchronicity or coincidence, but I have to tell you this story. It was hilarious.
yes.
I'm at work
Okay.
last night at the restaurant. We were slow, and so I'm doing my Richard Coleman homework right in the back room. Um,
That's where everybody does it.
Right. I'm making notes and I'm like, okay, there's this, and then, oh, and that, and okay, this. And then just so I can remember these talking points. and then I get a table for my first table in 2 hours walks in, so finally, and I
Oh,
go and lovely, lovely gay couple, and I take their order. I'm assuming they're a couple. And I take their order and it's great. And then they just order pasta and a beer and that's it. And so I go back to my notepad and my coworker who didn't know what I was doing. She knew I was preparing for an interview. She didn't know who it was with or
yeah.
the significance. And she goes, "Summer, you have to go look at your table shirt. It's so cool." And I'm like, "Okay, okay, what is it?" And she goes, "The purple one." I'm like, "Okay." The Cheshire Cat, Disney's,
Oh, oh my God.
is
Oh,
on
that's
it,
great.
is
Oh,
on it.
I
And so
just
dude's name is Roger. Shout out to Roger in the Cheshire Cat shirt. I took a picture of him. I'll post it right here. All right.
that's lovely. That's
And
lovely.
it was just so much fun. And so like the synchronicity of it all and the Cheshire Cat shirt and this and then I told him I was going to talk to you and he remembered the show. And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god, this is so crazy. You don't understand how weird this is." And so and then my coworker who I was talking to and she's like, "And it's purple." And I'm like, "Yeah, the cat was usually purple." And she goes, "No." An hour before we were shopping on Walmart.com, I was buying myself some new hair dye, and I'm like, "Maybe I'll go purple." And I bought purple hair dye. So the purple, the cat, the whole thing, it was
That
just
all links up. It's
it
all that's great.
it's
I believe it.
crazy. I mean,
Yes.
synchronicity, right? Like time,
Yes.
oh my gosh, coincidence, whatever you want to call it, that's
We
nuts.
should buy a lottery ticket right now together and
We should-
we'll probably win.
we'll win all of $5. Here's your
Y-
250.
Yes. Well, when I was in Chicago, we had I was in a couple of commercials and things as an actor, and I was a lottery ball. They had an
Wait, what?
they they had a whole like an ad campaign when the Illinois lottery started, and I was number 7 of the and we were all balls, and we would be on mini tramps and bouncing around, and we were dressed as styrofoam balls.
Okay,
And
for your name just changed from Mr. Cool to number 7.
okay, thanks. People would see me on the L, and they'd go, "Hey man, I bet on you. What, you didn't come through for me?" And I'm like, "I'm just a ball. I am just a
Shut
ball."
up. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, it was fun.
Tell me
It
about
was
your
a
time working in Chicago. Another synchronicity we discovered that we had was when you were living here, you lived less than a mile away from where I live now
yes.
and where I've lived
And
for the last 17 years. So
wow.
that's crazy, right? I mean, and
Yes.
when I first moved here, I did live closer to Howard Street, which was closer to where you were.
Yes.
Right, and now I'm in
Oh yeah.
the nice area of Rogers
Of
Park.
Rogers Park.
Now I'm in the
Yes.
nice area of East Rogers Park. I'm by Loyola. I'm fancy.
Lucky you. I spent a lot of time in that cemetery that separates
Yeah.
Evanston from Rogers Park,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
it's a cool cemetery. I mean, at night it would be, you get these great winds off the lake, and
Mhm.
it was enough to really make you, chill your bones a little bit in more ways than one. Um, I loved Chicago. Chicago was great. Um, you know, I got my equity, I got my, not equity, my SAG card in Chicago doing commercials. And so when I moved to Los Angeles, I was kind of like hit the ground running with union affiliation, and it was great. It was I had a lot of fun time
And
working at.
you met one of my mentors here. We talked about it, Peter.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Pete Spellos, yeah, for
Yep.
sure.
Yeah, so
Um,
you were with him when he was out here. What?
yes, yes, yeah. And then
Crazy.
also I saw him a few times in LA.
Mhm.
Great guy, great guy, great improviser,
Yeah.
smart, funny, creative, giving, you know,
Mhm.
all those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another horror icon also.
Yes. Oh, yes. This house that I'm in right now in California is haunted. It's it's not a big house. It's only like it's two bedroom and one bath kind of a thing. And but my wife and I moved in, and we were standing where the kitchen meets the living room. And I said, "What have you got on?" And she said, "What do you mean?" I said, "What is that perfume?" And she goes, "I don't smell any perfume." I said, "Well, yeah, no, right." And we were like within a foot of each other. And then she moved closer to me and she could smell it. And it was in this square foot of area in the air. And if you moved away from it, you couldn't smell it. And when you moved into it, you could smell it. And it lasted for like half an hour.
Weird.
And then it went away.
Did she think you were cheating on her?
I think it was really somebody's gas. No, I have no idea. But it was that old woman
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah. The
perfume.
the
And
the
then,
roses, right?
yes, exactly, Rose. Yes.
Yeah.
And then another time I was working, we'd taken out a wall and I was fixing the floor where the wall was. And I realized that somebody was standing next to me. And I looked over and I could see shoes. And as I went up and looked up his pant leg, I got to his face by the time he disappeared. And I was like, wow. And it wasn't scary.
Yeah, yeah.
It was really warming and kind of like it didn't occur to me to be startled. And then, like a week later, we were over at the woman who sold us the house, which she lives a couple of blocks away. And she said, "Oh, let me show you pictures of the house when my family lived there and blah, blah, blah." And she turned the page and there was the man. And she goes,
No.
That's my father. He's passed away, blah, blah, blah. He used to live there. And I said, I saw him. I saw him. I was working on the house. And she goes, "Well, maybe he was making sure that you were doing everything up to plumb, you know?" So,
Right? See,
oh, yeah.
I never believed in ghosts. I want to. I'm a skeptic, but I'm a nice skeptic. I'm like, "Please prove me wrong. Please. Please prove me
I
wrong."
I totally believe in it.
Well,
I've had a few experiences with the supernatural, seeing people standing, walking into a wall, just
really?
walking through a wall. Yes, and they're never scary. They're
Yeah.
never. It's never like, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
It's like, hello, moving on. I've got some journey to follow or some attend, something to attend to.
Yeah.
And
So
but it's like you see them. You,
yeah,
you know.
I did have a weird experience when I first moved here. I was staying with a friend on the South Side, and it was, a condo building where the elevator was always broken, so I'd have to take the stairwell a lot, and then
Yeah.
I saw some shadows move across the wall when there were no windows to make shadows, so I'm like, "Okay, well, that's interesting." Moving on, and then, nothing for forever until, the day after Peter died. And I swear he's
Oh,
haunting me. I
wow.
really do because, well, he died in the middle of the night, at like 2 a.m. on a Sunday morning, right? And I was at a con here,
Yeah.
a local con, and so that was the hardest group of panels I've ever had to do. I watched those videos and I'm like, not even there, you know. And I'm like, I'm just like doing my job, but there's no light in my eyes at all. I'm just trying to hold it together so I don't cry on
Oh,
stage.
geez.
And
Wow.
and, then I get home and I'm like, "Well, I might as well start doing my laundry." And so I do my laundry, and my laundry is 4 flights down, so I'm doing the laundry, and then I come back up. I'd just gotten home, right? And
Yeah.
my bedroom fan is on, and it's November, and my window fan, it's not in the window, it's on the floor, is on. And he
Oh,
was always
wow.
giving me shit because I like to keep the fan on because I like it cold, right?
Yeah.
And he would always give me shit about keeping the fan on. So the fan's on, and I'm like, "Well, the fan has not been on all weekend because 'cause I've been gone, and it's
Wow.
November." And I'm like, "Okay." But like a psychopath, I just, like, crumble to the ground and start crying and talking to the fan.
Oh, gee.
But the weirdest part is
Wow. You poor thing.
the
Oh, my
weirdest
God.
part was, like, um, when I would start talking, the fan blades would get slower. And then when I would stop, like, waiting for a response, they'd speed up.
Oh, trippy. Oh,
I
my
know.
God.
I
That is,
know. And
oh,
yeah, and then that went on for maybe 5 minutes, and then the fan blade steadied, and then maybe it was electrical. I don't know. But how did it turn on its own?
wow.
Right? And I'm like, "That's
That's,
Peter for
that's
sure."
really, yeah.
And
Oh, my
then
God.
when I went to his memorial in India, I took the bus there. So it was a month and a half, 2 months after.
Yeah.
And, he was on that show American Dreams about bandstand
Yeah.
and playing the station manager. And I'm coming. It was a great, beautiful, beautiful time. And now we're all friends. And now I'm back on the bus and I start to play my do you do Pandora, like, on your phone, like the radio?
No.
Okay, so, it's basically a radio station. It's a radio station, kind of where it
Okay.
streams music, right? And you can curate your playlist like, "Oh, I don't like that song, so they don't play any more of
Oh,
that."
okay.
And
Yeah.
so
Okay.
I got my Jersey Boys station, which I've had for years, right? And, it plays mostly show tunes and Jersey Boys, right?
Yeah.
And Frankie Valli. And and not a single for an hour, not a single Jersey Boys, Frankie Valli, or show tune played. It was all the songs that was on American Dreams.
Oh, wow.
And I'm
Oh,
like,
that's lovely.
"Fuck you,
That's
Peter."
lo-
Like, "You're still here."
that's
And
great.
yeah, and
Oh, that's great.
My friend Andras has a radio show called Radio 8 Ball, and it's like the Magic 8 Ball, but you ask the radio a question, and then it picks a song from you out of thousands of songs, and that's the answer to your question. And
Oh.
it always hits, right? There's an app, I'll show you, and you can play it. It's fun. But it always hits in just the right way. And so I texted him, "You're not gonna believe this shit with this music and the synchronicity." And he's like, "That's the pure stuff."
Oh.
And as soon as I texted him, it stopped and went back to Frankie Valli.
Wow.
I know. So I wasn't a
Wow.
believer until that. And then I'm like, he's definitely haunting me in the best
That's
way.
good. That's really good.
It's
That's
the
really
good
good.
stuff. Yeah,
And
and
see,
it's
it's
so
not,
fun.
and it's not scary. It
No.
is really heartwarming, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly. It's like, and I texted the group chat of everyone that was at the memorial. We're all in touch now with the Spellows first. After they left the memorial, they all had similar experiences. A lot had to do with music.
Oh, wow. See that?
Crazy,
That's
right?
that's trippy. That's really,
Yeah.
and it's
Unexplained.
true, you know.
Unexplained.
Yeah, and so many things in this world are that are natural, let alone supernatural. So it's like, just open up your mind and
Yeah.
be a believer. Be a believer right now. Trust me, be a believer.
Yeah, like we're a creepy cult.
Yes. Here, we'll prove it. We'll prove it. We're connected. Here, pick a number from 1 to 10. Go.
I got it.
Okay,
What's my
7.
number? Yes.
7.
Actually,
Yes, see?
you're not far off. It was 8. You're really close.
7, 8. What's the difference?
Well,
What is?
it's because you're Mr. 7, remember?
Yeah, that's true. That's what it's my go-to.
Okay, so speaking of creepy cults, okay, another part of your work was Tales from the Dark Side, which I might just happen to have right here, all of it. Okay,
Oh, jeez. Yeah,
you did the Connie Stevens episode, and it
I
was a
did.
very cult-like episode, a televangelist type episode, right?
Yes, I was a televangelist and was married to someone, and I think their mother or my mother or somebody's mother was just the head of the
Yeah,
televangelist was Connie Stevens, and
yeah.
she was a real monster on set. She was,
Really?
oh yeah, she would like in the middle of a scene, she'd like start clapping. Come on, people, there's no energy here. There's no energy. Let's get our energy. It was like the cameras are rolling, and she would call cut, and the director was like, no, no, no. I call cut. And she was like, no, no, I
Wow.
just couldn't feel it. Let's just take this back from. She was totally in charge. And so in the course of the story, at the end, there's this whole thing about a doorway to hell.
Mhm.
And at the end, my character grabs her by the shoulders, and there was a mattress already set up, and I threw her through the door, and she landed on this mattress into hell, and that was the end of her character. Spoiler alert. And
It's been
so
40 years. If they haven't seen it now, that's not our fault.
that's true. And the director came up to me and he said, "We got that. That looked good, Richard. Thanks. That was good. We're going to do it a few more times because everybody in the crew wants to see you throw her to the ground a few more times." And it was like, okay, okay. So I was like, and threw her, and then she'd land on the mattress. She wasn't hurt, but
Right.
people were just like, the
They were
first AD
tickled.
was like, yes, yes,
Uh,
because she was just a monster. And
wow.
and then the other one was Kim Greist,
Yep.
I think, who she was the female lead in Brazil, the movie with Terry Gilliam's movie, and so she was
And
in
for
this
our horror
episode.
people, the female lead in Chud.
There you go. And so I got to kiss her, and I got to take her unzip her dress. It was kind of sexy and not at the same time.
Yeah.
It was very PG.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then we were laying in bed, and I was asleep, and she was doing a lot of voiceover stuff about
Mhm.
she wanted to have sex with a human and see what it was like. Of course, I had to represent every male
We should say
in the
she was an
world.
alien.
She
It's a
was an alien. Yes,
shame.
this is strange. Thank you. Thank you very much. She was from outer space, and I wasn't.
Yeah.
And as I recall, the sex was great. No, I have no idea. It was like a cut to,
Yeah.
steamy show over, and I was just laying there. It was like one of the. I did a commercial in Chicago one time where I was just enjoying. It was for the gas company or something, and I
Mhm.
was laying in a hammock, and that was all my action was just to roll in a hammock, lay there, and pretend I was asleep. And then we go cut. Okay, back to one. Richard, you okay? You comfortable enough?
Like, oh, yeah.
And then that was all I did in the commercial was sleep.
Oh
So it
my
was the same
god.
thing with this, yeah. And so laying there with Kim Greist, and she was sweet and nice, and it was so unsexy, and
Well,
there were seven.
you open the scene, you by start by telling her how she doesn't talk much and you're fine with that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're kind of quiet. I like that. I dig that. Or, yeah, it was funny.
It
It was
was
funny.
funny, it was funny. You know, the person who wrote the Connie Stevens, The Unhappy Medium is what that episode's called. The person who wrote
Yes.
that, she wrote a lot for, Tales from the Dark Side, and she adapted a lot of Stephen King had a lot of stories in that show, a lot of his short stories were in that show, and she adapted most of the Stephen King ones for
Oh,
that show
that's cool.
as
That's
well.
really nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very, very, very cool. And then, I have it here, Dusty Nelson directed
Oh, yeah,
another
Dusty Nelson. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Who also did Mr. Rogers. So
He ended up casting me in a lot of he would cast me every time he could use me in commercials and stuff. And he'd come up to me at the callback and he'd say, "You don't know me, Richard. You don't know me." Because he didn't want
right,
to look like he was playing favorites.
right.
And he'd go, "Hi there, I'm Dusty Nelson. How are you?" I go, "I'm Richard Kuhlman, blah blah blah."
Yeah,
And then we'd do the thing, and then he'd cast me. It was
right.
nice to have somebody on the inside. Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, so you did a show called The Invisible Man, an episode of that, which I did watch. I watched that episode because you told me about it. I found it.
Yeah.
And I'm looking before I saw the episode, I'm looking at these credits and I'm like, "Oh, Nan Martin's in this episode and her character has the same last name as you, but she's like 25 years older than you. Was she your mom?" And then
Yes.
you revisited and then you're like, "She's my wife." And I'm thinking, "Okay, get him, cougar." But because I've seen this trope so much in horror, I'm like, "She's just rapidly aged. That's got to be it." And it was kind of the situation.
Yeah.
But it was an entertaining episode. I've never seen the show. I missed that era in TV. I wasn't watching a lot of TV in early 2000s. So, um, tell me about working on that.
Well, as I recall, it was like we went down to San Diego and from Los Angeles, and then on my day off, I walked to Mexico. I remember being really close to Mexico to the border, and everybody was really nice. It was, one scene was washing the car. We were throwing
Yeah.
spongy, soapy sponges at each other and having a good time. And Nan, I remember, because I watched it again because I hadn't seen it in 1,000 years. And I do remember she was really sweet and gracious. And
Yeah, you two only had one scene together, so
yeah,
it wouldn't have been long.
she spent the time in bed, kind of
Yeah,
recovering or about to be killed or something like that.
both.
And yes, so
The character, not Nan.
yeah, but it was,
Right.
I mean, I love The Invisible Man, the old movie, the old
Right.
Claude Rains movie that's forever old, and it's unwrapping his face and shit.
Mhm.
That was scary as hell as a kid. I was like, how are they doing that? And So it was kind of fun, but I wish I would have been something a little bit more scary than just realizing that my wife had aged, or, and then they corrected it. She came back, and we had more children after that, I'm sure, and stuff like that. So
I laughed out loud. They threw some comedy in that final scene, when she
yeah,
comes back and you're like, "Oh my god," because all
yes,
your kids and you thought that she'd been dead for 10 years, right?
right,
And so she's now back to her old self, no longer Nan Martin, now she's young
yeah,
again, 35, I think they said, the character was, and yeah, I was paying attention, sir. And you're, like, hugging them and kissing them, and it's a big group grope situation,
yes.
and the boss is like, "Hey, we gotta talk about this," and you guys are like, "Nope. No, we're not." He's like, "Okay, I'll talk to you later." Okay. So it was funny.
As a kid, I might have been a little repulsed by my mom. I thought she was dead for 10 years. And it's
I
like,
know,
what
zombie.
the, yeah, zombie, exactly. Might have tried to hit her with a wooden stake or something. I
I'd be
don't
like,
know.
"You ain't her."
Yeah, it's a
No.
lot to take in, I would
Prove it.
think, you know. Yes. And then there's a girlfriend that my character has that she steps out on the front porch and she says dinner, and it's all awkward. And I'm like, yes, well, honey, you've been gone for 10 years, and this is Michelle, and but we can figure this out. We can figure this out.
Right, but wasn't the girlfriend in on it?
Probably. Yeah.
No, like, wasn't that girlfriend the one that was, like, helping Nan out, in the
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's
clinic
true.
or
That's true.
whatever? So she was her assignment was to go and spy on you for the last 10 years?
That's right.
I was paying attention, sir. Do I get a gold star?
Good job. Good job. You could tell there was massive amounts of sex going on in that show. Why would that show was not picked up? I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it was amusing, it was entertaining, but,
Yeah.
it is what it is. Okay, what else do we have? Okay, so, theater nerd I am, right? We've talked
Yes,
about this a lot. You you've done a lot of theater. Like, you've done
I have.
everything. You've been in it, you've acted in it, you've directed it, you've written it. Um, tell me about, Fractured Fairy Tales from the East.
Fractured Fairy Tales. Originally, I was commissioned to write like a story theater thing because I worked a lot with Paul Sills and Second City, and Paul Sills developed story theater, and it was always using Grimm's tales. And this producer of theater, he said, I want the same thing, but I don't want Grimm's. And so I researched Far East and the Middle East tales and found it's a great deal of great folk tales, and
Mhm.
so I adapted them to theater, and there was a lot of humor came out of Korea, if you can believe it, and Vietnam and China and Japan, and I compiled it all together, and it was called, well, originally it was called The Seven Colored Flower, which was one of the stories, but now it's called Once Upon a Time times 12, and because it's 12 different folk tales, and they deal with, they deal with all sorts of things. From Korea, there's a Cinderella tale where they kill Cinderella twice. The evil step parents and stepdaughter, stepsister of Cinderella, they fucking kill her. They pull her head off, and
All
um,
right.
yeah. But Cinderella gets revenge at the end, and marries the the prince, and then the stepmother weeps herself. She's so upset that Cinderella has won and she's lost. She weeps herself until she goes blind and then wanders off in a place called the Land of Many Cliffs.
Oh my
So
gosh.
that's what happens to the stepmother. And then the stepsister is such a bitch that Cinderella says, "Okay, you know what? You can do this. This will be great if you just boil your face in some hot oil." And the stepsister does that and dies. And Cinderella says, "I'm still a sweet Cinderella, but you can only push me so far." So there's like it was really great to adapt these kind of dry or humorless folk tales into something that was comedic or touching.
Mhm.
And sometimes I would take the second half of one and the first half of another and push
Yeah.
them together and make it into a wholly other different thing. And if I wasn't sure where it was from, I would just assign it to a country.
Yeah.
And, so but I also did.
I love
I've written
that.
a screenplay that's a monster movie. I took the idea of these ancient um, burial grounds that sometimes it's like a Stonehenge or something like that, only they are in the shape of a earthen mound. And sometimes they're ceremonial and sometimes they're burial. And so there's one that's in Ohio that's shaped like a serpent and it's swallowing an egg like that. So I made up a story all about that, about how it was the first serial killer. So it's kind of a horror comedy. And but the best thing about it right now is the title. The title is called Diarrhea of the Dead. Now, if you're gonna line up on some Saturday night to go and see a date movie called Diary of the Dead, I don't think that's gonna happen.
Well,
So
I
right now,
am.
okay, then you would. I would take you.
Do
You-
you know how big this spooky industry is now? I mean,
Oh
we
yeah,
would and how much indie horror has really gotten popular over the last 5 or 10 years, especially the last 5.
yeah.
And things are getting theatrical releases now, like a weekend or a day, and it's so fun. I would be there. I'd be there.
Good. I will send you the script.
Yes,
We'll work
please.
on this. Okay, good.
That's amazing. Okay, tell me about Ojai Youth Entertainers Studio.
Oh my God. That
Homework,
was
sir.
you know too much about me. You will have to be killed. Um, it was a uh, it still kind of exists. It doesn't exist with me, and I was the artistic director of it in its first 18 months of existence. And I was paired with a woman who I can't tell you the name of, and all she wanted to do was reproduce Disney Junior things, and I really
Uh-huh.
wanted to do authentic children's theater. And the Ojai Youth Entertainers Studio was called Oh Yes. And so it was kind of a fiasco. It just got, uh, they eventually said, we can only afford to pay certain people. We can't really pay the artistic director anymore. And I said, okay, well, then let's just call it quits. Um, I can't believe you know about this. So it was very,
Oh,
Summer, you're hilarious. You
I
are,
got just wait, I got more.
oh, Jesus. You're as hilarious as you are beautiful. This is so much fun.
Oh, is that
Oh, hi,
good?
Anything. Okay. Yes, it's really good. It's really
It's like,
good.
are you saying I'm hilarious or I'm a troll? I'm not sure. Okay.
No,
Like the one
no.
under the bridge.
That was my first role, actually, in kindergarten. The first play I was ever in. This school that I went to had a backyard that went to a woods, and there was a little bridge. And my teacher brought us down there and said, "We're going to act out the Three Billy Goats Gruff."
Oh,
And
wow.
and I said, "Can I be the troll?" And they said,
Yes.
"Yes." And so when it came time to get butted, I rolled all the way down and fell into the creek. And she was like, "No, no, 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 no!" And I rolled like 20 feet somersaulting, but I was just so totally into it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and ended up in this creek. And she was like, "What have you done?" And I said, "I'm trying to make it real. I'm 6 years old. Leave me alone."
Your method already.
I was already method. I was
Already method.
feeling it. The
Your method
troll.
before it was popular. Okay, okay, I actually don't know what this means. I wrote it down.
Go.
Um, so I clearly, it was probably when we started to get busy at the restaurant, I abandoned the thought. Uh,
Excellent.
Devin Rick on a stick?
Oh,
Can
Devin, we're gonna stick. Okay,
you
that's a
tell
good
me
thing.
what the hell that is?
That's a good thing. My friend Deb Height, she is a wonderful actress in Los Angeles. She was in Barbie, actually. there's a scene where Ken comes up and says, "Can I speak to a doctor?" And she says, "I am a doctor." And it was in all the previews
Oh,
and
wow.
stuff. And it was, he's saying, "Oh, I can just operate on anybody, can't I?" He was Ken trying to get used to the real world. And she
Right.
was like, "Security, what is going on here?" So she's a very funny woman. She gets hired to do a lot of comedic stuff, a lot of and she's a writer too. She also writes really good. And so we wrote some stuff together. It was a series of sketches, and she's an old friend. So she's Deb and Rick. We're just Deb and Rick. And I said, why don't we just call it Deb and Rick on a Stick? And we would perform it at people's living rooms. We would perform it in theaters. We took it to Second City in Los Angeles when they had a space, and we sold tickets there, and it was very popular. We got a lot of laughs, and we had a spoof about two very bitter, sarcastic writers trying to figure out what they were going to do in the 30s, and
Oh.
they come up with the idea. They come up with all the ideas for "It's a Wonderful Life." And they go, wouldn't it be great if somebody had the power to be able to see what their life would be like if they'd never been born? And so we go through this whole thing, but we're so bitter and sarcastic and cynical that we go, this guy's a joke. He said he only has friends because he lets them walk all over him. Why doesn't he's better off dead? I think he's better off dead. So that was it, and that was kind of funny. And we had one where she was strung out on LSD or something, and she was on a subway, and I show up and I'm the oh fuck, I can't remember, um, the something, some kind of patrol. And I would just, we were people that would appear when you were out in public really super high, and we'd come up and sit with you and say, it's okay, it's going to be fine. And she'd go, well, look at this pencil. And I go, you want another pencil? Here's another pen. Oh, thank you. And, you know,
You
um,
know, that is a service. That's a very important service, okay?
yes, yes, it was a dramatization of a very needed service. Yes, and and so maybe it'll catch on. I don't know,
I
but
I
we
w
had
I
we had
would
a
I
lot of
would like
fun.
to see that as well.
I'm gonna catch a flight to Chicago. I'm gonna show you everything I've ever done.
Gotta bring Deb.
Yes, I gotta bring Deb too. Yes,
And you and her did a short film, A Bit of Counseling?
yes, and it won a lot of awards. It
Did
was
it?
uh, it was two couple. Have you seen it? Did you?
I've seen parts of it.
Oh, okay.
Parts of the
Um,
7 minutes, so I've probably seen about 5 minutes of
I think
it.
it's only 8 minutes long, but it's a couple that they don't know how to argue.
So
They
cute.
never fight.
So
Yeah, and it
cute.
was it was based on both of our relationships at the time. We just said, God, I never argue. I never argue with my spouse. I never argue with they're not. It's not happening. And then we thought, well, that would be a weird thing to bring to a marriage counselor. So the camera was a marriage counselor. You never
Mhm.
saw them, and it was just a two shot of us and then a close up of each one of us. And um, James Roddy edited it and put it together for us, and it was really well edited, and it was well written, and we acted it, and we thought it was funny, but it was missing something. And then we said, let's try this with British accents. So when we did it with British accents, it was hilarious. And so we filmed it and submitted it to a bunch of places, and a lot of places liked it. It was I have an award on my wall over here from the Los Angeles uh, Comic Shorts Festival, the first year that they did that, and we won one of the best comic shorts of it.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
and it
so
was and the
cool.
yeah, and the ceremony took place. It was in March. It was on my birthday, and the entire we come down and they're interviewing the filmmakers, and they said, "And Richard, it's your birthday today, isn't it?" And I go, "Yes, it is." And so the entire audience of 300 people sang happy birthday to me. So it was kind of fun. And it was
So
it was nice to be
so good.
recognized, and it really worked. It's a good little short little film.
It's
I'm
super
proud.
cute.
Thank you.
And you got a great English accent in that as well.
Yes, thank you. And I was allowed to keep that, whereas as a Cheshire Cat, I got it mixed. Yeah.
That's what happens
Yes.
when you're in charge.
Yes.
Because didn't you're credited as, like, co-writing and co-directing, and, like, that was like your
Yes,
guys' like thing. No one's there to tell you what you can and can't do, right?
exactly. And that's a
So,
lesson for all of us.
yes. Okay, so let's talk about Hartnell College in Salinas. You did a lot of
Hartnell
work there,
College. Yes, um,
directing mainly, right?
I did. I directed. Well, I've directed a lot of things there. I was acting in a. We did an eight. No, wait a minute. How long was it? Like 6.5 hour production, stage production of East of Eden, John Steinbeck, because it's Salinas, and that's Steinbeck country. You know, he was born and raised in Salinas, and then he wrote East of Eden about a lot of the scandals that were existing in Salinas in his day. And East of Eden, I mean, if you've seen the movie with James Dean, that's good, but that's only about a sixth of the novel.
Right.
It's a really heartwarming novel. And so we did it for 6.5 hours on this stage, and it was sold out every time. And I played the lead in it, Adam Trask, but there it goes through the entire life cycle of Adam. And so there were three or four of us that played, maybe three. There were three actors that played him as a young man, as middle-aged, getting married. That was my character. And then the older guy who dies of a stroke or something like that at the end. It was incredibly moving. It was, and then I directed Of Mice and Men there. And I had this thing at the end. I had lost the dog we had to put him asleep, put her to sleep. And it was, my wife said, well, I kind of had the feeling that the dog gave me permission. And I was like, at the end, it was really sad and stuff. And so when I was directing Of Mice and Men, spoiler alert, at the end, George has to shoot Lenny because Lenny's been really bad and has killed some people and stuff like that. So George has got the gun pointed at the back of Lenny's head, and Lenny's telling him to look out over look out over there into the forest, over there into the trees, and you can picture where we're going to live. And Lenny's like, I can see it, George, I can see it. And George shoots him. And I thought, well, if somebody told me to imagine something that was over there, and then suddenly I could see it, I would check back with him. I'd say like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. Hey man, I can see it. I can
Mhm.
see it. And when he turns around, he sees George with a gun leveled at his head. And so I said, let's do that. And so Lenny's like, and people are crying in the audience because it's very emotional. It's well written, totally perfect, beautiful play. And so Lenny's going, oh, I can see it, George. And he turns around and he sees George pointing the gun at Lenny's face. And the audience went, oh, it was like, breaking protocol, for crying out loud. And I said, now just to the actor, I said, now just hold that for like 15 seconds
Mhm.
and let's just see and then slowly turn around and you're back looking where you were supposed to be looking with the gun pointed at the back of your head. And you're putting it all together because you're kind of, Lenny's not altogether intelligent. And he's trying to put together, why would George have the gun pointed at my head? And why is and the audience was just spellbound. They were just like, what is going to happen next? And I didn't change any of the dialogue. I just had Lenny kind of scrunch his shoulders up and shut his eyes and say, I can see it, George. I can see it. And George shot him in the back of the head. And it was really, it was really emotional. So
Yeah.
Hartnell, they just trusted me as a director and an actor. And I did some really nice shit there, I think. And people came up to me afterwards and they were like, people were saying, why did you do that at the end with Lenny? That's just sacrosanct and blah, blah, blah. And other people would come up and say, I was never so moved in my life. That was incredibly insightful and great. And it's just blocking to just have him turn around in the last second. And I checked actually, when I came up with the idea, I thought, well, that's a little risky.
Mhm.
And I checked with some friends of mine who direct. One of the guys runs the theater in Chicago, Northlight Theater in Chicago. And I said, hey, what do you think about this? And he said, make sure you do it center stage, right down front. Make sure nobody misses it. That's a great idea. And I mentioned it to one of the guys at Steppenwolf. It was one of the founders. He's a Facebook friend of mine. And he said, yeah, I wanted to do the same thing, but when John Malkovich played Lenny, but John wanted to die in slow motion, and so we did that instead of the thing. So I was like,
Oh,
okay, you know,
Malkovich.
yeah, Malkovich. What are you going to do? You're not going to fight with John Malkovich, I guess.
Malkovich being Malkovich.
Yes, but Hartnell was really, they were. I adapted some of Steinbeck's novels to the stage. Tortilla Flat, which is a great novel, and it's very theatrical, and I don't know why anyone has never done it, uh, you know, on a super large scale.
Right.
And Cannery Row, I adapted that to the stage. So Hartnell was really a sweet place. I hope to work there again sometime.
Aw,
I actually have a directing gig this summer, and it is in the state of Maine. I'm going to fly there in late June and come back in August. And it's on an island off the coast of Maine.
really?
Yeah, it's like what? And it's like you have to take a ferry ride. There's no bridge to the island. It's a ferry. It's an hour-long ferry ride.
Well, that's the stuff
I
horror movies are made of, you know.
well, that's what I'm thinking. It's pretty scary.
And
It's
it
gonna
is
be.
Stephen King land.
Oh, completely. Have you ever seen his house in I
No.
think he lives in
I
Portland?
mean I mean, I've seen a picture, Bangor, I think,
Yeah, Bangor. Yeah,
but I've
exactly.
never
And
been to Maine,
his
so
his fence out in front of it. His house
yeah.
looks like a haunted mansion.
Yeah.
And the fence has got little gargoyle heads on the spikes all along. It's just this custom made fence.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's really, yeah, but Maine is like, I can't wait. I hope to find a pet cemetery somewhere.
Don't die.
And no, I won't. If I do, I'll come back.
Okay. Sometimes they come back as a Stephen King movie too.
Why not? Why
So
the fuck not? Yes.
exactly. You'll be haunting us all. I'll just be like going about my life and I'll hear the Cheshire cat laugh. Oh my gosh. Something else I forgot about that story about the guy. Back to
Oh,
Cheshire.
oh, okay.
So there was one more piece that I forgot. So one of my other theater mentors who I worked for many years in Bakersfield, briefly he had one of his last theaters and he had a little coffee company run out of it. Cheshire Cat Brewing Company.
Oh my God.
Yes. And I was also like, did I make this up? Because that's how brief it was. And I was already out here at the time, so I wasn't even around to see it in
Yeah.
person. And so the chronological of this is I buy my purple hair color. Okay. I'm doing my homework.
Yes.
I take a dude's order. I go and hide somewhere to try to find a picture that Dave Zent posted on Facebook of the Cheshire Cat, right? Then I
Yeah.
go back, and that's when she tells me to go look at Guy's shirt. I knew there was something else missing in there, and I'm not kidding. Like it was like Cheshire, Cheshire, Cheshire. I was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me right now?
Wow. That's
Yes,
incredible. Oh, that's incredible.
telling you, man, it's so funny.
We're
Timing.
connected, Summer. We're
There's no,
connected.
there are no accidents, right?
Right, exactly.
Right.
That's true.
That's
That's really
crazy.
true.
So, what's this island called in Maine? How can people go to this island and see your work?
Well, it's called North Haven.
Okay.
And if you're in Maine, take the ferry out. And I think you can get the ferry back after the show is over. I don't know. You might have to swim. I don't know. They did
Stay
say
there
that,
at the local hotel.
yes, maybe so. I don't, it might be that they force you to do it. The play is called The Man Who Came to Dinner. It's an old chestnut from the
Yeah.
30s comedy. It's a very funny comedy. It's going to be great. And the producers that I've met on Zoom who hired me, they're wonderful, enthusiastic, and it's going to be an adventure and a half. I'm going to write about it, I think, because I don't know. It's been a strange year, and now I have a really strange summer. And I've been to Maine before. I've directed a play. I've directed two plays in Maine, actually, the two times that I've been there. But it was in the wilderness. It was like in the middle of the state. This is on an island off the coast,
Right.
and they have a lot of people come out in the summer to stay there. And so they are a well attended little theater. And they hired me. I interviewed and on a Zoom and sent them what I thought about the play and my resume and things like that. And they were like, "Oh, Richard, we loved you right from the start, and this is really great." So I'm looking forward to
Don't you
really,
love hearing that? Like, doesn't that just
I
feel so
do.
nice to be appreciated like that
Yes,
by your
that's
peers,
exactly right.
right?
Yes. Hmm.
That's so neat.
And yes.
So, like, if someone were to go to this island, like, what's the nearest city? Where do they fly to? You know?
Oh, well, I'm going to fly. I have to fly a red eye from Los Angeles. Normally I fly out of Santa Barbara, but there's no late flights out of Santa Barbara. So I have to fly a red eye to Minneapolis and then fly from Minneapolis to Portland, Maine,
So Portland.
then drive an hour and a half from Portland, Maine to the coast, and then take an hour ferry. And I have to get, the reason I have to do a red eye is because in order to get to Portland and then get to the coast in time to make the last ferry to the island. So it's all very Stephen King, complicated, quirky, crazy. And
You need to make this into a new play. I'm just
well,
saying.
I'm conceiving of it right now, and I'm going to take notes, and it's going to be. I know that everybody on the island is going to be sweet and wonderful and strangely beautiful, and no one will age or something. I don't know. There will be something really.
I expect updates, like
Yes.
real-time updates, like, "Summer, you're
Okay.
not gonna believe what
I
happened on
will.
the island."
I will. I will. And then sometimes it'll be just a message from me, and it'll be my hand scraping down the screen.
I'll be like, "Uh-oh, I
Yes,
told him not to go."
that's right. Yes,
I
you're
don't
the last one to talk to him alive, didn't you? You were the, yes. And I will become the man who came to dinner. See, it'll be so weird. It'll be so weird.
you could call
Diarrhea of the dead.
you
So
could call your other, the man who came to the other dinner.
I love that. I love that. You could show up and it would be the dame who came to dinner. No, I have
Love
no
it.
idea.
The doll that came to dinner.
The doll. The
Right.
doll.
The
Yes,
doll,
yes.
yes. I had to take a sexual harassment course when I was working at the law firm a few years ago.
Yeah.
Apparently, we're not allowed to call people dame or doll or toots anymore.
Oh, wow.
And I said, no
Well
one's
then,
ever called me a dame or a toots, and I would love it.
geez, I was just thinking because of the 1930s, that's what everybody would call. Hey, dame, Cary Grant was like
Yeah.
flicking a cigarette at someone and calling him a dame or something.
But for
Um,
there to be a rule, there had to be a problem. So I'm really curious as to how this became a rule. Like, you can't
oh
call
God.
anyone toots in 2023.
And now we're back to O.J. Simpson. This is so cyclical, the whole thing.
It's how I work.
And
It's how I work.
P P Diddy,
Uh,
good
I can't,
God.
I can't tell you how many times episode has been recorded on this show. And when I had a co-host and more time, we were doing like regular weekly episodes reviews of movies, right?
Oh, cool.
So many times we were recording on one of the stars' birthdays, one of the days the stars died, the day it was released, the day that it
Wow.
took place. Like, we recorded our Purge episode on the day the Purge was happening in the
Uh-huh.
movie. Completely accidental. It's just how it timed out. And
Wow.
or it would be released on that day. We know when I'm going to drop these, and it would come out on a birthday or the day they died.
Oh,
And
geez.
over and over again, it just kept happening. So I'm really used to these weird, like, synchronicities and stuff. It no longer, like, weirds me out. It makes me giddy when I
Well,
find
I
it.
think I think it has to do with you.
You think?
I think it has, you have something, some kind of chemistry. You have this electricity, I don't
That's
even
one way
know
to put
you,
it.
but look how friendly you are. Look how much fun you are.
Depends on who you ask. 'Cause I'm pretty
See,
savage.
that's great. Good to know.
In case you couldn't tell from my Facebook activity. That's just a little hint. Like I am the nicest person you'll ever know until you cross me, and then you
That's
better watch
great. Well,
out.
you shouldn't be crossed.
Should
That's
not.
basically the lesson here.
Oh my
No
god.
one,
You
don't
will
cross. Who would cross somebody named Summer?
Oh,
Summer's.
I got some haters.
Oh,
This bitch,
they're assholes.
this bitch.
Oh, Jesus.
Anyway,
Oh
moving
man.
on.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a little insight into my drama in
I
this
guess.
in
Oh
this
my God.
crazy, crazy world. And I guess I'm just really mean.
Yeah.
We'll
You
just
don't deserve that. You don't, I mean, I can assess you pretty quick. You're a fascinating person. You don't deserve any of that bullshit. But
thank you. Thank
because you're
you.
so cool, you're going to have to face it from all sorts of lesser people,
Yeah. Yeah,
that
yeah.
just don't have their shit together.
These people are
It's really,
these people are actually lunatics. Like, are you kidding me right now? Yeah.
oh well.
Anyway, okay. So
Okay, okay.
back on course. Back on
Okay,
course.
okay, back on course.
That was a fun little detour. It's still too mushy.
Definitely.
That should be the title of this episode, just to make people listen to it and see where it goes.
That's great.
And if I like them, you can message me and I'll tell you all about it.
Okay, good.
Okay,
Yes, that's
so
good.
uh, I've kept you for a long time already. Can I have 20 more minutes of your time?
Yes, please. I'm
Okay,
having a
good.
blast.
Okay, I want to
Yeah.
be mindful of your time. I don't want to like keep you for forever and a day. So let's talk some more Adventures in Wonderland
Okay.
because I have to. Because I have to. As I said, I want to know, like, when you're building a character like Cat, or because that's just what they called you, like Cat,
Yes.
you know, or any of your characters. What's your process of developing this characters?
It's usually very physical. It's usually, I just did a play here in Ventura County. That was Martin McDonough play called Hangman, and it's such a dark comedy. But my character, I felt like he was a show off a little bit, and so I danced a lot. I would just be in the scene and would just, as I moved across the stage, I would make it into a dance. It would be a dance movement and things like that. And the other actors were like, "What are you doing?" I think he's a show off. I think and it matched. It worked. It was really a lot of fun. And I've always been that way. I've always been my training. The training that really mattered to me was working with Paul Sills in Chicago and also in Los Angeles. When he moved out to Los Angeles, I was out there as well. And it always begins with the physicality. He would say, Rick, are you in touch with your spine today? you know, and it would be like, it was just everything came from the spine. A gesture,
Yeah.
steps, everything comes from the spine. And it was never anything. A gesture is not from the wrist down to the fingertips. It's your whole body is involved in a gesture, and especially for theater,
Mhm.
film and television, it can be adapted in the same kind of a thing. But it's physicality, and that's what an audience wants to see. They don't want to see somebody that is uh, non-physical.
Yeah.
It's physicality that leads to everything. That just leads to everything. It leads to voice. It leads to, even when I think the story's not about you. That when what physicality, what minor physicality can be going on, and this works for the camera as well. Simplicity, just simply, touching your face or playing with an object, a simple pencil or something like that. That's how I go about it. And with the cat, it was the cat was more vocal for
Mhm.
me than physicality, but I would look at him all the time, and just the whole energy that came off of that puppet. It was just so well constructed, and using his face, I was really good at servo. One control worked his upper lip, and the other one was his other upper lip and
So is
lower
this
lip.
a hand
It was
remote?
actually it was two hands, and on each hand, it was almost like a early video game.
Uh-huh.
It was like kind of,
Yeah.
and so if I did my thumb, that would, each thumb was something different, each finger was something different, and then the moving like this was different like that. I think I might have controlled. No, I don't think I controlled the head, but I think it was all in the face.
His
And
eyes were like
Yeah, yeah.
everything. The
So it was
brows,
like there
the
was a lot to,
lips.
yeah, yeah, and it was a lot to coordinate, but
Right.
it became like dance steps after a while. It became like something, you're not thinking shuffle, hop, ball, chain. You're not thinking that as you're doing it necessarily. It's like it becomes second nature. Um, and it was coordinated with my mouth. And so if I would end up extending a vowel or saying something, well, I don't know. I mean, my hands did that exactly in coordination with my mouth.
Really?
And yeah, yeah. So it was in that respect, it was effortless, but it was a lot of concentration because you wanted to make it right. And it was also, I mean, after a week of filming, and it was, the choreography, I think in every episode we had at least two or three songs, and they were elaborate, and it was covered really well with a lot of cameras. So everybody worked from Monday to Friday or Sunday to Friday, and Friday Friday afternoon evening was when we did the blue screen or the green screen, and we had the Cheshire Cat. And people were tired by then. The crew was tired, and so I couldn't fuck it up. If I wasn't up to speed, and they loved me because I knew what I was doing,
Mhm.
and and I would be there during the week off camera whenever the Cheshire Cat was in a scene. The puppet wouldn't be there necessarily, but they would react to where the puppet would be on Friday. We would end up placing it on the screen, and then it would check the eye line and stuff, make sure people were looking where the cat was and where the cat, and if handing off a prop was something else again and stuff. But I just had to be able to be kind of flawless about it.
So did
And
you
then
record your lines, like, separately in, like, a studio as well?
yes, and that was another day that we would go and meet in the recording studio, and they would play it back, and I'd have headphones, and it would be three beeps, and then I would after the third beep, I'd start to speak, and his lips would move, and then I would add his voice, and they were a little bit, it would be really important to be right on top of that. But they could also adjust the audio if I was slightly off. They'd say, "No, we got that. We could take care of that." Blah blah blah, and they could adjust it so it looked exactly synced up with his lips and stuff. And it was also it wasn't recorded in the TV studio with just me sitting there with just the cameras and the microphones hanging. It was like with a microphone right there with a
Mhm.
split screen on it, and it was all really precise and really clear audio. So it was a lot of fun. It was an education because I was not only an actor, but I was part of the crew in that I was a puppeteer, and then I
Yeah.
was also, working technically. So it was a great job. It was a
Did
really great
Disney
job.
pay you extra for puppeteering?
No, the way they're very
Your
cheap. They're a
stunt
very
pay?
cheap company. Yeah, exactly. I had my own litter box. I know that. And
Was there a snake in it? I'm just saying.
yeah, exactly. Well, everybody's salary was different.
Yeah.
Patrick Richwood was kind of wasn't like a star. I mean, Amelia McQueen was probably the star. Um, and
She's
the girl
definitely
that
like
played,
the center focal because everything was, "Don't piss this one off."
yes, exactly.
The
And
whole every story was, "Let's not tick off the queen.
yes, and Patrick
Mom's gonna be
Patrick
mad
was
at us."
and Patrick was on rollerblades the whole time, and he would often wipe out. And there's a lot of really funny
Those
outtakes.
floors looked slick.
Oh yeah, well he passed out a couple times being so heated in that. We were shooting in Florida, and even though it was air conditioned and stuff, it was just hot. And so sometimes he would be in a scene, he'd just be like,
Oh,
and just collapse.
at
And
least the suit was soft for the landing.
yes, he'd land on the big fat butt.
Yes, his
I don't,
tail.
he never really hurt himself. He never like
Exactly.
was out for, recuperating or anything like that. Um, I think Wes fell over one time, I think, or started to fall over. Maybe there might be an outtake.
Oh,
We
just
haven't
like
looked at that.
topple.
Yeah, it was like, whoa,
Oh, yeah,
whoa,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and there's three people in there on little layers of, so it was funny.
Going back to the Alice in Wonderland, it's like the cards.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And
Ah,
I would be sitting there, and the cat would be, we had a lot of outtakes with the cat because the cat was just a filthy mouth because I
yeah.
was just dirty. It'd be like they would they would be showing a video of what they shot during the week, and then they were placing the cat in the position, and so they'd go blah blah blah, and they'd freeze, and then the hatter would be standing right there, and I would be the cat would be active, and the video would stop, and I'd be like, "What the fuck are you doing? Give us a kiss, kiss me, you fucker." It was all sorts of weird shit, and then the director loved that. Gary, what the hell was his name? Well, there was a few directors.
Yeah.
Gary directed most of it, but he was very encouraging of the cat being filthy mouthed, and those are somewhere in the Disney vaults as well.
The
you
the
know.
it's just so many components that went into making Cat and putting him on the screen perfectly.
Yeah,
It's so interesting to
it
hear
was a
about.
teamwork. It was definitely
Oh,
teamwork. Yeah,
yeah, definitely. So interesting to hear about. And I mean, on the other cast members, they did it just perfectly too. Their eye lines and everything. So
yeah,
it was all
yeah.
amazing, all amazing. I said to you last night, I said, Adventures in Wonderland needs to be rebooted to a horror film.
Yes, that would be great.
Wouldn't it
That would
though?
be.
Because,
Oh yeah.
the whole thing is an LSD fueled nightmare. I mean, yeah.
How great would it be to start killing people off? Suddenly the dormouse has got his head pulled off, and they go, "What the fuck happened to the
Okay.
dormouse?"
You
And
want to hear my pitch?
yes,
And if
please.
anyone can make this happen, I don't care if you steal it because I want it to happen. I don't care how.
Okay, good.
Okay. So Elizabeth wakes up 35 years later, right?
Yes, okay.
In the loony basket. And this whole thing, even from 35 years ago, she was already in the hospital then, crazy.
Oh, great. I love that.
She never was
I
in her
love
bedroom. She never was obviously was going through the mirror, clearly. But she was just shackled down. And this was all her little world, which we all knew already. But, that makes it more sinister if you're in the mental hospital.
Yeah.
Very Return to Oz, if you ever saw that. It
Oh,
was
wow. Okay.
really, really trippy, sweet sequel to Wizard of Oz in 1985 or something like that.
Wow.
Veruza Balk starred in it. She was very young. And yeah, so
What's it
very
what's it called? What's it called? Return to Oz?
Return to Oz.
I'll look for it.
So creepy. You thought Wizard of Oz was creepy. This is sinister. And this bitch cuts off heads and puts them on her. When she feels like she wants a new head, she just has a bulk of head.
Oh,
Anyway, it's amazing.
nice.
Watch it. Everyone know
Oh my God.
anyone who likes spooky knows all about it. My age at least. Because that was our childhood, right? This is why we love what we love. Um, and so very Return to Oz is what I'm thinking. And, as much as the original cast that we could get back would be great, obviously we can't get the dead ones back, but
Right.
they could do some like CGI, or they could already be dead. Like maybe White Rabbit finally snaps and takes Armelia's head off.
Yes.
He's tired of being bossed around and he loses it. And he just goes on a massacre.
Okay, good.
That's one idea. That's one
That's
idea.
that's great. That's great.
I have a few more, but it all goes back to she was always crazy.
Good. Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's a great anchor for the whole thing.
And then
Yes.
what we could do is we could do what they did in the original It. Have you seen It? Tim Curry's It,
Oh, sure.
right?
Yeah.
So in part 2, when adult Henry Bauer starts hallucinating in the hospital, right?
Yes.
She could be in her hospital hallucinating, and then they're actually there in her room with her. They're no longer in Wonderland. Now they're in the real world. And they could actually be in the real world.
Yes. Oh
And they
God,
could
yeah.
start taking out her revenge for keeping her there for so long. Because now they're
Perfect.
no longer fake, right? So they were
Yeah.
always real, and she's been locked up for 35, 40 years wrongly.
I love this. I love this.
Someone make it happen.
Fuck yes. Fuck
My
yes.
creepy ass wants this so bad.
Oh man. A
Okay, so
giant giant caterpillar coming into somebody's room. That would be great.
That would be horrifying and
Fuck,
awesome.
it'd be like, what the?
Awesome.
Oh,
Everything would have to mostly be practical because then it would just look stupid. You got to have the puppets and you got to have the costumes. You can't just throw in a CGI unless you have to.
right, right.
That was one of Dee Wallace's conditions when she returned to Critters, because she did
Oh,
like
really?
the remake of Critters, was that it had to be a real critter. Couldn't be CGI
Wow.
critters. It had to be a real puppets.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
That's
it has
true.
to be real puppets. It can't be
It is.
CGI crap. Just saying.
Right,
Again,
right.
because our brain knows we're being tricked. And that's what was so magical about these twisted things that we loved in the 80s, was because they were all puppets. Ret-
Yes,
Return to Oz was all puppet work and
yes.
some claymation, stop motion, but it was all physical stuff. It wasn't computer.
Yeah, what is, there's no CGI that is creepier than one of those Victorian dolls that sit there with this hard heads and just stares at you with these weird lips and it was like that's what they played with is Victoria, and it's like this doll is fucking third dimension. Get the fuck, what the,
Yes.
you know.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So there's my pitch for the horror version of Adventures in Wonderland. Wizard
That
of Oz
works.
can do it, so can we, okay? I'm just saying.
Yes, my people will talk to your people. This is good. Perfect.
I'll throw ideas and someone else has to write it.
Yes.
Okay, so one last question before I let you go. You said in the beginning of our conversations when we first started talking that you like horror too. So I
Yes.
want to know about your horror journey. What made you love scary, spooky, creepy shit?
I was thinking about this, and it's like children scare the shit out of me. I would not be I'm a good uncle. I don't think I'd be a really good parent because I'm kind of self-absorbed a little bit with
Thank you.
my career and stuff. And it's not everybody should be a parent, and that's a parent. But kids scare me. Um, the kid, in Pet Cemetery, the kid that comes back has a strange name, Chase or something like that.
Gauge.
Gage, exactly. That was creepy as fuck. As a child, being introduced to horror, my favorite was Frankenstein and Dracula and
Mm-hmm.
Wolfman, and that was really, it was, just growing up in Ohio, we didn't really have much access to much else and stuff. And I really wasn't into like the Preacher of the Black Lagoon. That just seemed to be, I could smack him and he'd go away or something. I don't know. But there was something relentless when something just keeps coming at you slowly, like The Mummy or Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
That creeps me out. And I love cemeteries. I love the whole idea of, and I don't think we should keep doing that. I think people should be cremated and scattered, and there's a lot of real estate that's being wasted as cemeteries. But the ones that are around, I mean,
Well, have you seen
Cincinnati.
Poltergeist? Because they found a way.
That's right, exactly. There's a cemetery in Cincinnati that's the second largest cemetery in the world, or the United States, or something. And it's like Arlington Cemetery is, and
Mhm.
then there's Spring Grove. And Spring Grove is beautiful and laid out well and hilly and this and that and lakes and little ponds and shit like that. But I have grandparents that are buried there, and it's gothic, and
Oh, I love it.
and there are those houses that rich people have a house and all the bodies are on little drawers that are, stacked on top of each other and shit, like a mausoleum, like a mini mausoleum. That's creepy to me.
Yeah.
Just why don't you just get rid of that body? No, I want the body to be, so when I come and visit it, it's head height, It's like, no, it's in a drawer. It's all just too much. It's a little bit like a morgue. So that's creepy to me.
Yeah, we just
I've
need a
spent
drawer.
you
Pull
you
them
what?
out. We just need a drawer to pull the body out to look at it.
Yes, and I seek out horror. I've spent the night in a haunted church in my college days, and I've spent the night in a cemetery. um, just kind of with a friend and it was, it's just great to just creep yourself out. And I remember hearing a bell, it was like this bell was ringing. We were in the church and it was like, people were like, what the hell's that bell? And they said, well, it's in the steeple. This is a church. There's a steeple. And somebody said, there is no steeple in this church. And we're like, where the fuck is this bell coming from? So we all had to like walk as a group into
Yeah.
the dark. Nobody had a flashlight and there were moles that were digging in the ground, and so you'd step and then you'd step on a mole hole and it would pull your foot down like 6 inches, but it was enough to make you crap your pants. You were just so scared. And it turned out the bell was like on the cow. It was farm cow. It was like, and it was like a bell just ding ding
Yeah.
ding
Yeah,
ding. It was
yeah,
like, it's
yeah.
a fucking cow, everybody, let's go back to bed.
Yeah.
So, but I love that. I love late at night. I love early morning. I love darkness. I love walking around in the dark, and I love scary children. Give
Favorite
me a
scare
fucking weird child. Yeah.
favorite scary child in the movies.
Favorite scary child? Well, it would have to be Gage. I
Age.
think I think Gage is creepy, and even and the book is so much scarier than the movie. The book is, I mean, it's Stephen King.
Yeah.
He's the best storyteller for
Well,
this.
fun fact about that one specifically, because I'm an encyclopedia of useless knowledge,
Good,
is
good.
is that I've read the book recently, like within the last 5 years, and it's so close to the movie. It's so close. The only real big difference was what's Fred Gwynn's character's name? Judd.
Oh
Um
yeah,
Judd's wife in the book was alive and she died, and then in the movie she's already been dead.
yeah, that's
But
right.
then at one of these conventions, I bought a script from Denise Crosby
Oh,
and written screenplay by Stephen King. He wrote that one for screen.
oh,
He adapted that one himself. And
yeah, yeah.
that's why it holds up and that's why it's so good because he did it.
That's good. That's
But
good. That's good.
yeah, no, so Gage is your ultimate scary child, huh?
If I could think about it. I mean, when they're trying to be scary, it doesn't really like the bad seed or some kind of weird
Yeah.
little strange kid thing. But I don't know. There's something nagging in my head. I just can't really picture it right now. But I'll think of it like 2 hours from now. I'll go, oh my
Village
God.
of the
Yeah,
Damned is good, but people argue those are aliens, not children, right?
yeah, that's true. Oh, that's true. Okay.
So there's all the
You do it. You are an
technicalities.
encyclopedia. You're an encyclopedia. You are. You're incredible.
I've been obsessed with horror films since 1990. I was 8.
Wow.
So,
Mm,
yeah.
you're a child. You are a child.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
yeah. But yeah,
8 years
no.
old. Yeah, I think that's when it hit me. It was like,
Yeah.
had to have been 8 or 9 or
Do you
something like
remember
that.
your first horror film that you saw? Where you're like, this
Well,
is
our,
good.
our the kids' TV was in the basement.
Mhm.
And the basement was creepy to begin with, and it was off in a corner, and it was one of those big old TV sets, black and white,
Yeah.
and it probably was Frankenstein.
That's
I
so
mean, my brother is 2 years older, and he would introduce me to everything, and
yeah.
he would say, "Come on, let's go. I got to show you a movie.
Yes.
Blah blah blah. It's going to be
Yes.
on in 10 minutes," because he had to run.
Yes.
It wasn't like it was on tape or anything, and
Right.
come down and sit there in the dark. No, turn off the light. He was just in charge of setting the mood.
It's so magical though.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I say it all the time, my grandma is responsible for everything I love today, the theater, and the horror. My first horror film was at her house. She had a house full of foster kids, and at the time, I was an only child, so I would go and play over there all the time, right?
Oh wow.
And
Yeah.
foster kids of all ages, my age, older high schoolers, right?
Yeah.
And it was like that since the time my dad was a kid. So this was a lifestyle that she lived, helping the community for forever.
Hmm.
And one of her foster kids, who I believe she adopted many of them, like actually adopted them. She might have adopted this one or just kept her until she got out of high school. But
Wow.
her name was Deanna, and I thought she was the coolest and the prettiest, and I loved her. And my grandma had her and her sister. And 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 one day we went to the video store, as we always did on Friday night, and we rented the movie Suspiria from 1970 something with Argento, and it was about a ballet academy of witches.
Oh my God. Oh
And
my
it was
God.
magical. And I was just like, What? And it's funny because so I was 8-ish then, and my first ever horror experience that I can remember, which scared me and, was Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I snuck out into the living room to watch it because it had clowns in it, so it must be for children, right? And even
Yeah.
though my mom told me I shouldn't watch it and said no, I don't know what scene I saw. I can't remember. I must have blocked it out, and then I got scared and I ran back to my bedroom, and that was it. And then I do remember Little Shop of Horrors was frightening for me as
Yeah.
well, and even though that wasn't technically horror. Uh, and then, but then a couple years later, I got Suspiria, and it was like the magic ticket. And
Mm.
ever since then, I consumed all things spooky all the time if I can.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a Spanish movie and it's called the Orphanage. It's no, oh, no, it's not the one that's American Orphanage. It's called, and it's Spanish and it's subtitled,
Yeah.
and it is a great ghost story. And
Yes.
it is, and have you seen it?
Kind of. I started to watch it and realized it was subtitled, and I turned it off.
Oh shit, too
No, well,
bad. It's
the problem is I don't have the attention span for subtitles, and I'm not a good reader. I never have been, so I can't keep.
oh
I have a hard time keeping up. If it's dubbed, I can do it, but I have a hard time keeping up with subtitles.
Well, see if you can find a dubbed thing or learn
Right.
Spanish. One of the two. It's also there's not that much dialogue in it.
So it's more
Um,
watching and seeing a few words every now and then.
Yes, and
Yeah.
it's was written by a guy who believes in ghosts, and it was directed by a guy who doesn't believe in ghosts.
Oh,
And
that's
so
interesting.
they said apparently like whatever special effects we show, we have to have a logical reason how it could have happened just naturally, you know.
Yep.
And but it's really a satisfying ghost story. Has
All
a
right.
great ending.
I'll
It's
give it a chance.
really yeah.
I'll watch it. I'll give it a
Because
chance.
once in the beginning there's a lot of setup and exposition
Yeah.
and stuff, but then the dialogue becomes very, very
Got it.
minimal,
Got
and
it.
it's really
I
satisfying.
might just
And
have
there's
to
a
watch it on pause, like
take 8 days to watch it. Okay.
right. Well, like I said, not a fast reader, so I've always had issues with subtitles because I can't keep up, and then I'm like, ah, well, fuck it, I quit. Well, Richard, I would love to do this with you again because this is fun.
Oh, this would be great.
This is
Anytime.
so fun. Great. We need to
Yeah.
have another conversation when you're on the island.
I will do that.
We
I will
need
do
to
that.
we
We
need
will
to
set
we
that
need
up.
to schedule this again because I want to hear all about the island adventures.
Yes, yes. I think it will be a spook show. I
It's going to
really
be
do.
awesome. I'm so excited. Make sure you keep a diary. Just in case something
Yes,
happens to you, first of all. We need
it's true.
evidence.
It has to be a waterproof diary that
Right.
can float to shore. That's
And
good.
well, freezer bags. So yeah, keep a diary
Okay.
and if nothing else, the diary will be a great script.
Thank you. Yes, it will be. It will be.
But
Okay.
thank you so much for talking to me for the last 2.5 hours. Like I've taken up so much time. I'm so sorry, but this has been so fun.
Thank you, Summer. You're a
All right.
sweetheart. This is great.
Stop it, you. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. This has been a treat. Stay tuned for more of Richard's adventures abroad on the island. Richard's adventures on the island.
That sounds good.
Okay. Bye,
Robert Louis
everyone.
Stevenson. Perfect. Great.
Bye, everyone.